she has in months. I hate to say that, but she did. And it gave me a little bit of comfort. It gave me a little bit of comfort to know that she was looking good, and she was in whatever you believe. I believe that we have a soul, and I believe in a God, because this shit's too random. Life is too fucking random. Life is too 1 in a billion to ever exist for me not to believe that there is some kind of master scientist behind it. There has to be. And my mother had a tremendous soul. She was so giving of herself. My friends who I will lovingly refer to as the knuckleheads, showed up to pay their respects to who they called their mom. People from work, whom she'd been years retired and removed from, showed up. People from out of town showed up. People from all over Facebook and all over every walk of life sent their regards. My mother was well loved, and I think she would have really liked that. And with my mother's body laying there, the funeral director decides to try and position the body so it's in a more appropriate kind of, I guess you could say, position for closing the casket. And he's trying to cross her arms. And I'll never forget when he was crossing her hands, how weird that looked. There was no life in her hands, of course, because she'd been dead like 13 days. But to see her face in such serenity and see him moving these stiff pair of hands, a surreal moment for sure. Absolutely surreal. So then comes the time to pray. And family members are coming in. People from her life are walking into what's supposed to be this small, intimate gathering of family, but she touched so many people that we filled the whole damn room with people. And the bishop looked at me and I looked at the bishop and I said, you know what? This woman was loved. We can't just restrict this right, because this woman was loved. So we allowed anybody who wanted to see her to see her. There were tears. There was shaking, sobbing, crying. Who was the one who didn't cry? Me. Because I had to give a prayer. I had to finish this shit off. I had planned all this stuff. I gotta come through. I had spent 8 hours the night before on her eulogy. 8 hours. And I'm a pretty damn good writer. Yet I had to make sure that eulogy was just right. And that she was remembered to what I felt was proper. I gave the prayer at the burial, or I gave the prayer at the viewing. People were crying. My daughters were crying. 7 and 4 were crying. My aunts and uncles, nieces and nephews, all just bawling. And who's not crying? I'm not crying. Why am I not crying? Why am I not just losing my shit? Because I got shit to do. So, pallbearers walk her out. And, it's funny. The screen just kind of shook. I believe in the paranormal, and that would be really funny if, there was some kind of signal that went through just now. She's probably not going to be very happy that I'm using curse words, but, fuck it. So we walk into the chapel. I take a seat right in front of my mom, first row, with my dad. He's doing okay, but fairly inconsolable. Have a great service. I deliver the eulogy. People seem to like it. They all asked for copies. People just kept coming up to me saying it was a great eulogy. And then we go Then we go to the cemetery, and this is something that is fairly interesting. They have the gravesite set up with the tarp and, you know, and everything else, and they load the casket. I mean, this is all a business, and this is all done. I mean, they do this all day, every day, and they just have it down to a science. They're taking the casket up, they're putting it in this enclosure, and there's a crypt involved, and it just all comes together. I'm amazed at the consistency and the efficiency of these people to put a burial together. It's not like 4 guys digging a hole. So you know, they get her up there, and there's more crying, and there's more speaking. And then there's the moment where it becomes, and this is what really bothered me. This is out of all of it, out of my mom dying, out of the lack of fairness to my kids. They're not going to see their grandchild, or they're not going to see their grandmother. Just out of everything, the extensive cost of the funeral, the worries of putting things together, the one of the most bothering things to me was, after all was said and done, and nobody wanted to leave, was when they ran a backhoe up the hill and they just started filling her grave in. And that kind of gave it a real, like, moment of, oh shit, this is life, you know? This is life. My mother, who was so alive and so loved her grandkids, and so loved living and made wonderful things with her hands, and was such a nice and wonderful lady. The woman who gave me life is laying in a concrete box. Correction, in a wooden box, surrounded by a concrete box, covered in dirt. And that just became really tough for me. After I had a huge burrito, I went home. Slept for about 6 hours. And then Memorial Day weekend, I fell apart. I'm not ashamed to say it. I fell apart. I fell to the floor. I was broken. And just yesterday and the day before have I started to have good days. So why am I doing this? Why am I broadcasting a fucking radio show? And you know why it is? Because my mom told me I could be whatever I wanted to be. And you know what I want to be? I want to be a broadcaster, and I don't give a fuck. I don't give one single solitary ounce of fuck who's listening. I don't give a fuck. When I went into this whole charade, my mom backed me up. She even did an interview with me about surviving cancer, which I can't pull up right now because I don't know how I'm going to do it. But she was very supportive, and she would want me to do this. So when I say that I've changed, let me just say this. Before, I'd go on the radio and just think, you know what? I'm the shit. I'm awesome. Then I get knocked down a peg or two. I became a complete asshole on the air. Maybe I am now. I don't know. I don't care. Maybe I'm complete dick. I don't know. But, yeah. Honestly, I've changed. You hear that barking in the background? I used to get so concerned about, God, that's going to bleed through on the recording. Fuck it. Who cares? I'm doing the best with what I have. And you know what? I think Mom would appreciate that. So this episode It's dedicated to my mother, Vicky Renee Soriano, who passed away on May 15th, 2017 at the age of 60. I know you're here. I know you're around. Just want to say I appreciate you. I love you. Always. I'm going to make you proud. I'm going to do a hell of a show and I'm going to make you proud. You may not like what I have to say sometimes. You may think that I'm a little crazy. But you know what? You're going to be proud. Because I'm going out there and I'm grabbing this shit by the balls. I'm going to have fun doing it, goddammit. Not going to let some keyboard warriors fuck with me. By the way,